Hey everyone, here is Bay back with another video because I cannot decide what to do with my life, or my art style for that matter. If any of you have ever watched any of my videos, you know that I'm very diverse in my art styles, which isn't specifically great when you want to make a webcomic, but you cannot decide what art style you want. When I look at a lot of the art styles I see on Webtoon, it's usually the classic Manwha style. Like the Korean webcomics, I'm sure everyone is pretty familiar with it. So as a way for me to decide what kind of comic style I want to use for Irredeemable, for now I have this one that I will show you on screen. This is the style that I usually kind of go for, or a little bit more on the sketchy side. But I will make a comic page of 4 separate parts with 4 separate art styles. So the first one will be the Manwha art style. I will draw my 2 main characters from Irredeemable in all the different art styles, so it's easier to compare. This is Etherin, she's a fairy, and here is Letian, a wizard. So here we're starting out with the sketch. I usually sketch pretty rough because it's easier to just get shapes in and not be scared about making mistakes and all that kind of stuff. And I shape a lot of the things out with the eraser tool too, so you can kind of get like a feeling. So I went for like the most classic Manhwa style I could think of, because there are several Manhwa styles, of course. It's like if you look up Manhwa art style on the internet, this would be like kind of the first thing that would come to my mind, at least. A lot of like hair strands and very pointy chins and noses, like single lines as noses with big eyes, but also like sharp eyes in a way. The line art is super thin, except for around like the eyes. Usually they stand out more, which is understandable, but there's almost no line weights, and personally for me it's not the most fun to do because I really like messing around with line weight usually. I also hate drawing every single hair strand. I don't think that's something I want to do for the eventual style, but I really liked playing around with it here though. It was fun to kind of, get to know how the other artists do that and how to make everything clean with just one line weight, because usually when you use different line weights you can kind of get away with it not looking as clean, but here I really try to make everything look as clean as possible, even though some of it is pretty wobbly. Here I went and started drawing Etherin, and the way they draw eyes is so interesting to me, with like the individual hairs of the lashes you can see. And again, of course, the amount of hair strands, I was struggling so hard with Etherin, her hair. Even though it was fun as well, I genuinely thought it was coming together really nicely. But just imagine doing this for every single panel. I have so much respect for the people that do this like every single day and have to draw these hair strands every single day. I know a lot of people really like to draw hair, but I don't know. I think expressions are like my favorite thing to draw. I also do feel like Manhwa art styles, the eyes kind of lack personality. One thing I wasn't going to do was giving them like different skin colors, because usually the characters in Manhwa are super pale, but I don't really feel like I need to change the color palettes just to fit the art style, unless there's like a specific need for the art style to be that way. But here I was just using the colors I always use for them, like bringing in their original like sketchy character sheets, or well, it's not really a character sheet, but it's enough to know like the flat colors for them and stuff. So there's not really a lot of trouble here with coloring. Some simple, a little darker cell shading than the original skin color. Usually I go way darker with the cell shading, but I didn't really feel like doing that here. The eyes are shiny, the hair is super shiny, but we'll get into that later. They have like really thin lips too, which I kind of was sad about because Ephraim has like this really dark upper lip. Rendering is really something for these art styles. It's like you need to make it feel clean but also shiny and also interesting enough to look at. So that was something that I kind of struggled with because of like usually I think line art plays a big part in making something look more interesting. But here the hair and the eyes and the shininess did the job, which is okay. I like trying it for once. So yeah, here I was shading the hair, and they go in with like all kinds of colors in the hair, and I thought that was like really fun with the playing around with the different colors, especially like around the roots of the hair, and of course the shine. It was everywhere. I didn't even go that much overboard with it, but in the references that I was using, gosh, everyone, I was like, how do you even achieve that level of shininess? Another thing is that they usually like put on a lot of stamps and random PNGs that I can just that you can just find everywhere in those manhwas, like in the corners, or they use like 3D models or anything like that. But I wasn't really doing that here, so maybe that why it looks kind of off, because everything is hand drawn here. I didn't just put anything on except for the background, where I just started adding a whole bunch of shapes. And like I found one brush that kind of looked like one of those sparkle things, so that's why I used that. The real time of this drawing was 60 minutes. Moving on to the next art style, which is the Dylan art style that I use for the comic I'm making right now, which is called Dylan and the Greenstorm. Go read it. It has a lot of simple shapes, and all of it is just using one brush that is a little rough around the edges, but that makes it look really cute and like self-made in a way, like a homemade art style, if you will. It has super simple shapes and it's really expressive, especially like the eyes. That's like the main goal in this art style, is that they're expressive, and you can like find so many things to do with the eyes. And also I forgot to flip the canvas, which was like really dumb. So yeah, and the line art is also like really rough and different variations of line weight, which makes it a little easier to read. It also looks a little bit playful, and I really want to like differentiate the way the eyes are shaped and the way the noses are shaped and the chins, because I feel like a character's personality should be in their face already. If you can't see this from their faces, then I feel like you did a bad job, personally. So that's why they look so vastly different here than in the manhwa one, but I love seeing the difference because then we can like compare them, right? I drew Everin and Latin in like really cute and poses that like say a lot about like their personalities, instead of like the manhwa one. They're kind of just there, they just look, but here they're in fighting stances and everything. Also, I have one color palette for the Dylan thing, which I need to stick by, except for, again, their skin tones, because I don't want to mess that up. I don't want to change that over the art styles. I think that's one thing I'll keep. Also, usually for the humans, sometimes I skin color, or like I color the line art of the skin to like a red line art, so it looks a little softer. But that's mostly for the more special panels I draw, because honestly I'm too lazy to do that in a comic. Also, usually there is like this purple multiply layer, that's the only kind of shading I really use, which has soft shading at the lower side and then sol shading at the everywhere else. And here you go, with some glow at the top, some magic surrounding them, and some of the brushes I use in the Dylan comic. So that's all the art styles I'll do for this video. If you guys want to see more, please like and comment and subscribe. And tell me what art styles you want to see for the next 2 drawings. I was thinking myself maybe like a Marvel American comic type of style, and maybe even a manga style. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and until the next one.